Good morning, everybody. Let me try that again. Good morning, everybody. I don't know if it got that because the microphone was muted, but it should be on now. How is everybody this morning? Larsen here. It's June 17th. Larsen is putting aside his life of vice and voluptuary for the contentment of matrimony. I am married as of 1 week ago, slightly more than 1 week, With me in studio is the stunningly beautiful Daphne Halleck, formerly nay Daphne Kruger, and the stream is a go. We opened up our stream with the terrible, terrible theme song they saddled Ricky Steamboat with in early 90s WCW, because he, much like me, is a family man. Don't have any kids on the way anytime soon, but it's a family of two. Yes, I'm much like Ricky Steamboat in that I'm also half Asian, half white, but I'm also literally half the size of him. Anyway, let's get right to the news. Oh, and I'm also not a tenth of the athlete he was, but I digress. Yes, news. Big story this week. Everybody's favorite crazy uncle Ted Kaczynski died, and the internet was remarkably sympathetic to him. Let the irony sink in there. Theodore J. Kaczynski, the writer of an elegant proof which showed that if there exists a 3-digit solution for X, then deleting the middle digit will automatically give you the 2-digit solution for X, if and only if you have found the 3-digit solution first. The footnote for this then says he is best known for other work. This is apparently a legitimate footnote found in a mathematics textbook somewhere. Kaczynski was 81 years old. I've discussed his work several times on the stream, and while I certainly feel his execution of his ideas was, could have been better, many of his ideas are right on the money. I mean, on the one hand, I have used the internet for many constructive things, like getting sheet music, getting carpentry plans and recipes, and allowing me to meet my wife. On the other hand, I can't help but notice that most people use the internet to get porn, get cat videos, get TikTok, and act as an ersatz babysitter for their Ritalin-bombed children. Yes, I will never stop hammering the tragedy of a child saying, "Don't forget to click share and subscribe" to his parents, because he thought that was good night and goodbye. Anyway, let's check out some comments here. Ian Kemster got a good paying job, which is fantastic. Good to see that my fans are making it in the world. Biff Slankovich is in the house. Yes, we are all in our houses. Ponythroat says hello, and then he mentions Juneteenth. Yes, Juneteenth is Monday. I mean, it's a good holiday. I mean, it's really more... I mean, I know it was a Texas state holiday for many years, because what Juneteenth is actually celebrating is the emancipation of the last slaves in Galveston, Texas. Okay, C-Punk Messiah says, hey. Ponythroat then says, Ted Kaczynski's ideas were based, but his methods were woke. Yeah, I think there was better ways to go about it rather than just blowing people's hands off Ted. Like, I remember a few months ago I talked about how there were prospective ideas to have, like, Sky advertisements. And I'm just going to tell you, like, if that happened, I would destroy those projectors. I would make sure not to hurt any people, but I would destroy the projectors, certainly. Dave Slankovich says, kudos to Jack Smith, the Elliot Ness of modern times. Indeed. But yeah, obviously high IQ individuals like myself and my wife and my listeners, of course, can use technology for constructive means. But can the peasantry? That remains to be seen. Vaguely related to Ted Kaczynski in the sense that this story shows how some people cannot handle returning to nature, so it's kind of the opposite side of the coin. Security camera footage in Canada shows underwear-clad witches eating a roadkill deer carcass in bizarre security camera footage that came out just this past week. This was up in Canada, Powell River, British Columbia. A woman set up her trail cam, and she was expecting to see some nice videos of, little bobcats and bears and things, frolicking about in the woods. I actually, there's a video I really love on YouTube. It's just a Pennsylvania trail cam showing, like, bears walking on logs and, like, bobcats inspecting the camera. And this one time a kingfisher just grabs a fish and just beats the shit out of it on a rock. But yeah, that's what that woman in Canada wanted. But instead, she saw some weirdos eating a deer carcass raw, and she was a little disturbed. Not that I can blame her. I mean, some people were freaking out way beyond the necessity of freaking out. Like, oh my god, these are demons, they're wendigos, they're skinwalkers. I highly doubt that. I think they were just weirdo hippie chicks doing some kind of ritual. I mean, witchy chicks tend to be kind of weird, and not in the good way, take it from me. Well, I mean, it starts out good and then just goes straight to hell. This is a cautionary tale from your internet dad. Do not be tempted by the black lipstick and the big goth titties. It's going to be a colossal headache for you. Trust me. You can also trust me in knowing that there's a surprising amount of that sort of thing you can find out there in the world. I have stumbled upon sacrificial altars in the woods, and even in urban neighborhoods, I've seen, Santeria and voodoo sacrifices, severed chicken heads in baskets and such. But if you're going to do animal sacrifices, that is your right as an American. The First Amendment gives you that right. But for the sake of your intestinal health, don't eat rotting deer carcasses you find in the woods. Do like the ancient Israelites, eat the sacrifice fresh. Be sensible about this sort of thing. Okay. Then we have some discussion about Ted K. Ponythroat says, I would make sure not to hurt any people, just Silicon Valley residents. Well, yes, of course. Biff Slankovich says, who prosecuted Ted Kaczynski? Wasn't it Janet Reno? And then Biff Slankovich also says, Ted Kaczynski used his post office to mail some of his package bombs. That's fascinating, sir. Biff Slankovich then says, we need presidents like Theodore Roosevelt. He explored the river of doubt. What a prez. Yeah, I agree. We do need Theodore Roosevelt around. And yes, I did make my beautiful wife watch The Wind and the Lion, which is somewhat fast and loose with history, but it's a good movie. Yes, ignore how Sean Connery is playing an Arab man. Anyway, Ponythroat says, I can use tech for constructive means, mostly 3D models of various animal genitalia. I just finished adding the veins pulsating along the horse's shaft in time with his spurts. Yeah, Ponythroat, there's a bar in South Jersey you'd really like. It has, animal penises decorating the walls. Just wall-to-wall animal penises. Or bacula, to be specific. I don't remember exactly where it is. I could open up my weird New Jersey book and look it up, but I don't want to. C-Punk Messiah says she very well could just be into Susie Sue and the Banshees, referring to, black lipstick, large-bosomed women. That is true. But, yeah, it's tempting at first, believe me, but it's going to be a pain in the ass. Anyway, leaving Canada and coming back to America, we have yet another video of some brappy punching a teacher in the face. And yes, I do get very angry when I see children hitting their teachers, as you're all very well aware. So apparently what happened in the video, and no, I didn't bother looking up where this happened, a teacher came in to intercede on two students squaring off. Both kids started swinging at the same time, and it honestly looked like both of them hit the teacher at the same time, and they knocked him ass over tea kettle. Now, I must say that the school I worked at this year wasn't this bad. I mean, I got some lip from students, but I didn't see any fist fights, so that's good. But yeah, when I see a student laying hands on a teacher, I'm filled with a, dare I say, tribalistic rage. And yes, my tribe is the teachers and the good students. The enemy are the brat students. And as coincidence would have it, my first scripted video that I'm making in my return from my scripted hiatus, which will probably come next Sunday, pause for applause, is a video enumerating my proposal in depth to allow teachers to starch their students within reason. But, I wonder why America's education system continues to go to hell in a handbasket. And no school marms, it wasn't always like this. By the way, I've already gotten my new post-public school teaching job. I'm working at a museum, the name of which I will not be giving you people. But it's still more or less teaching. But with, spending a year in the trenches, so to speak, I feel like I can speak about this sort of thing. Give the teachers more money and allow them to beat the shite out of students, but only the ones that hit them first. That's the quick and simple proposal, and I think that'll fix things quick. Or you know what, don't even give them more money. Just allow them to kick their students' asses. I might have to come back to the classroom for that privilege, personally. Let's see. Ponythroat says Count Baculum. Yes, I was. It was either going to be that pun or Scott Bakula. There's not really that many puns you can make about animal penis bones, but I think we ran the gamut, sir. But yeah, speaking of people who need an ass kicking, going back to the Eurozone, I say as if we had ever been in the Eurozone. I mean, going to the Eurozone, I should say. The climate change people ruined yet another artistic masterpiece. This time it was one of Monet's water lily paintings. I know he did a series of like 30 of those. I don't know exactly which one it was, but it was definitely one of them. It's in the museum in Stockholm, Sweden. Climate activists threw paint and glued themselves to the wall. It's amazing how they never seem to destroy crappy modern artworks, just the ones that people love and instantly recognize as high art. I mean, nobody's ever destroying that, like, that art piece that was literally like a woman, like, with a wall of used condoms from her one night stands. Nobody's ever destroying those, like, performance art pieces of women shitting in coffee cans. No, it's always the good paintings that get destroyed. Funny how that happens. My God, it's like we're, Stone Age dregs coming out of the caves, reacting with rage at the thought of like high culture that we can't possibly recreate nowadays. We're just venting our primitive fury upon it. And once again, I would like to specify, and you have my guarantee, that if I were to see climate activists shitting on, I guess you could call them the American masters, an Edward Hopper, a James Whistler, a Winslow Homer, Frederick Remington, all of which are at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, just a short jaunt across the GWB from me, I would get on the nearest bus, go to the museum, and start kicking ass. I'm dead serious. Hey, I just realized I'd be mixing both kinds of MMA. Mixed martial arts in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm very, very witty. Okay. Ponythroat says, when you see children playing with their lame phone games, do you wish to channel the spirit of Sega ta Sanshiro, Sega ta Sanshiro? Honestly, not really. My opinion is like, as long as you finish your work and shut up, you can play whatever games you want. I mean, I'm pretty lenient with regards to rules, but even that's like apparently not enough for the kids. Ponythrow then says if humans still had bacula, blowjobs with too much teeth would be like eating a corn dog. Yeah, I've certainly suffered that. And then, I mean, bacula, occasionally you'll see like people with like little remnants of bacula just kind of sticking around. Not very often, but it's occasionally a mutation that occurs. Yeah, we should go to that bar sometime. I'll buy you a drink at the penis bar. But yeah, let's not talk about hypothetical crappiness in New York City. The idea of climate activists destroying art masterpieces. Let's talk about actual crappiness in New York City, because there was more than a bit of that this week. 2 stories to be specific. The first story, something that made the rounds on Twitter, was that a child was robbed at gunpoint at his lemonade stand, and a bunch of extremely online communists, many of whom are also transgender, just FYI, pointed and laughed at him and said he should have been shot. Yeah, this story was a bit rough to read, so let's just get right to that. I don't know if you guys saw this, but if you didn't, I'm going to enumerate it for you. So the boy on the Upper West Side, I don't think it said his name. Yes, the young boy, looks like he was about, 8 or 9. He had a lemonade stand. People of completely unknown demographics robbed him at gunpoint. The story was reported by the police. There's was it like upperwestside.com or something like that? Yeah, it was people were correctly calling this a new low for the city. On Twitter, the boy was repeatedly mocked for getting mugged at gunpoint. And why did this little boy deserve getting mugged, which so many people were saying? It's because apparently the boy, and I quote, dresses like a slave master. Yes. Now, as somebody who wears a white suit on occasion myself, I'm going to have to say this kid didn't really dress like a slave master at all. I mean, he was wearing a blazer, a bow tie, and a boater hat, just for posterity's sake. And I do have some things to say here about this story. Yeah, first of all, the kid's dressed like a complete dweeb. I mean, I'm going to assume that the kid didn't dress himself because I feel like most 8-year-olds don't really choose their own clothes. I'm getting a shake of the head from my beautiful wife. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, hold on. What was that? Yes, my lovely wife does work with young children, so she's well aware of this. I mean, most 8-year-olds don't choose their own clothes, and I assure you, almost no 8-year-old chooses to wake up in the morning and say, "I'm going to dress like Maurice Chevalier." And who the hell wears a blazer in June? I mean, look, it's the Upper West Side, so I'm going to have to assume that his parents are former drama club kids with trust funds who made him dress like a total gay wad. With all that being said, obviously the kid doesn't deserve to get robbed at gunpoint, no matter what kind of clothes he was wearing. And he certainly doesn't deserve people saying he deserved it. Now, we're going to read a few quotes from these assholes, but let's check out the comments first. Okay. Ponythroat says he dressed like a slave master. Did he even include kippa and ringlets? I see what you did there. No. I'm going to explain why people think this kid was dressing like a quote-unquote slave master in a second, but let's get to the quotes. Eat shit, petite bourgeois. Petite bourgeois L. Maybe you shouldn't dress your white child like a plantation owner. He's dressed like an old-timey racist. He looks like he sells black people, etc., etc., etc. I wasn't aware that slave owners were known for wearing blazers and boater hats. I mean, if anything, isn't that like the stereotypical New England, like, WASP college boy outfit? I.e., the people who fought and defeated the Confederacy? Right now, I fight for people whose poetry is yet to be written, mother. That was a terrible Robert Gould Shaw impression, but nonetheless. Anyway, the people dunking on a traumatized child are probably sub 100 IQ. Oh, am I kidding? They're probably sub 75 IQ for the most part. Either way, these people have no idea what a slave owner would actually be wearing. They just see white boy wearing nice clothes, obviously a slave owner. Like the concept of a young boy wearing a suit, or business casual if you want to be technical, just fills them with this irrational fury. Like, these people have no conception of what the world was like before the 21st century. Now, how will the kid react to this? I mean, in the picture I saw, he looked pretty upset, rightfully so. Fate will decide whether the kid becomes like Matt Iglesias, who got the shite kicked out of him by a pack of urban youths and proceeded to suck their dicks even harder. So he might become like that, or the kid might become like Paul Kersey from Death Wish when he grows up. Who knows? We'll see. The world works in mysterious ways. Oh boy, there's not a great turnout today. Ponythroat then says slave owners all dress like Colonel Sanders, the only Confederate whose statue is completely safe from BLM. I see what you did there, sir. I mean, there's nothing wrong with white suits. Like I said, I do own a white suit myself. It, makes me look pretty cool, despite the thoughts of my wife, but the white suit looks cool, darling. Yes. But yeah, I mean, just because I wear a white suit doesn't make me a slave owner. Thank you. But yes, leaving the Upper West Side and going to a much crappier part of an increasingly crappy city, a video on TikTok, which I was unfortunately subjected to, shows pigeons being roasted for food, like whole pigeons, feathers and all, just being slapped onto the grill. They are then sloppily beheaded and gutted while cooking. Frankly, at this point, I'm just happy they're dead before they were cooked. I mean, squab is a viable option for food, but not like this, damn it. First of all, I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be eating like New York City street pigeons. I mean, I occasionally forage for edible herbs and plants myself, but like I don't pick them off the side of the road. And it goes double for, for street animals. And secondly, do we really have to be taught to pluck the feathers out of birds we're eating? I mean, there's an episode of Game of Thrones where what's his name? Podrick. Yeah, it's like someone gives him a rabbit. He's like, "Yeah, cook this," and he just like slaps the rabbit onto like a spit, like with the fur and everything. And as you can imagine, it's inedible garbage. Apparently, nobody got that message because we're just slapping whole birds, feathers and all, onto grills. First, I've seen videos of roasting rats or possibly guinea pigs on rotisseries, and now this. I'm not sure when America can officially be deemed a third world country, but we're well on our way. And yes, I know that technically America can never be a third world country because it's referring to, the bipolar world of the Cold War, with the first world being American allied countries and the second world being Soviet allied countries. I get that. I'm being colloquial here. I have a good idea. What if the Lemonade Kid franchised with the third world campesinos selling pigeon meat? License to print money, baby. Okay, let's see. Daphne Halleck says, I've yet to see the white suit. Oh, it looks pretty boss, baby. Okay, C-Punk Messiah says, worst case, Ontario, the Lemonade Boy becomes like Edward Norton in American History X. Ah, yes, Derek Vineyard. Tragic story. Biff Slankovich says, Robert Cleary was the lead prosecutor. Did Kaczynski die this week? Yes, sir. Yes, he did. Ted Kaczynski died. Okay, let's see. So, let's leave New York City crappiness behind. And let's go to the Eurozone for a little bit. The Guardian, pause for laughs, The Guardian has an article, it's like an advice column written by a Sasanke Umsimaying. I believe that's Nigerian. Anyway, she had a letter written to her. It asked, how can I help my white friend understand his dating preferences are racist? The woman writing the letter says, it is unfair to dismiss a whole group of people, says the woman. Yeah, the advice column basically said, kind of deal with it. But I have some advice for the letter writer, too. Honey, if you crave, the white meat so much, just be honest and say so. Like, can we all just admit that 90% of racial animus involves sexual resentment? And again, as an Asian man, I feel like I can say that with authority. I went through the Dante's Inferno of sexual fury, the Dante Inferno, if you will. And I will say this again for the cheap seats. All of my racial hatred and racial animus towards the evil white man, all my self-loathing about myself, disappeared the second I started having sexual intercourse on the regular. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, another article about this Sasanke woman. Always Another Country. It has a direct quote. A poignant passage when she falls in love with her now husband Simon. It is a romance that, ... triggers the anxiety you would expect when a black-powered disciple falls for a white man. She reconsidered her racial politics and revised a righteousness that was powerful, but abstract. Yeah, I bet she reconsidered her politics. Women seem to reconsider their politics quickly once somebody lays the goddamn pipe into them. I'm sorry if that's rude, but I've seen this happen. Like, I've literally read articles about. My wife is looking somewhat upset at this. Okay, let me explain. I have read another article, and I believe I talked about it at some point once, where it was like this woman. She wrote this whole book about how she stopped being a feminist once a handsome cowboy just slipped her with a goddamn beef really hard. And then she broke up with him, and then she wrote another book about how she was basically insane and like it kind of messed up her life. Just saying. Obviously, it doesn't apply to all women, but it has happened more than once. It's racist to not think I'm pretty, says Black Lady Typist. Followed shortly thereafter by another article. It's racist for you to think that I am pretty, says Asian Lady Typist. Well, just take a step back and realize that this sex nonsense is nonsense. I mean, I don't know who this woman is that wrote the letter, but I would recommend setting her up with Joshua Luna, that resentful Filipino chode I did a video on a while back. And yeah, I mean, this happens so often, it's become a meme. Radical in the streets, colonized in the sheets. Not that I'm saying you can't do that. I mean, love who you love, be with who you want to be with. I am libertarian, small L about that sort of thing, which is to say, you don't bother me, I don't bother you, do whatever you want. But I'm sorry, I can't help but noticing how time after time after time, the angriest woke women of color all seem to chase after the white dong. But hey, honey, if you want to engage in a little, Mr. Kurtz fantasies, that's your business. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You don't have the right to sleep with whatever race or group you fetishize. That goes for men and women of all races. Just laying that out there. If you can't get it on your own merits, well, that's your problem. It's funny how we rightfully shame male incels for, being like, oh, I'm a 400-pound lord, I deserve like a 100-pound, Asian woman. We rightfully shame those guys, but we celebrate women for doing the exact same thing. I mean, I keep saying this, I'm begging, Saturday Night Live or somebody, notice this, please, do a skit about it. I cannot be the only person who notices this. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat says, they assumed the feathers would turn into a layer of breadcrumbs and 11 herbs and spices with just an application of heat. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was black people doing it, so I don't know if that really applies stereotype-wise. But, yeah, it was kind of horrifying. Ponythroat then asked, is the advice column simply titled, girlfriend, the accent? No, it's like Ms. Understanding. Which is not a bad title, pun-wise. Ponythroat then continues with his brilliance. Anti-fascist in the streets, Lebensborn applicant in the sheets. Yeah, the will to bleach is always there. I mean, this has been a huge joke in America for a while, but I guess it's spreading to other countries too. But yeah, going back to the United States, apparently this week was the 248th anniversary of the founding of the United States Army. 248 years young. And the Army was about 170 years old when it fought the last war that was remotely justifiable. Korea, of course. The United States Army has not fought a war that should have been fought since 1953, and I stand by that. I mean, look, as an American citizen, does my heart swell with pride when I read about, Incheon or Bastogne, Bellawood or Gettysburg, Chapultepec or Tripoli, New Orleans and Yorktown? Yes, it does. And yes, I'm also aware that half of those were the Marines, actually. I'm a historian. Yeah, but those days of glory are long past. And I also kind of feel that the bootlicking military worship is a major reason why the country sucks. As an institution, fuck the military. Obviously, I respect the soldiers. They should be getting, health care and mental health, whoop-de-doos. But yeah, as an institution, fuck the military. I said it once and I said it again. And I will not stop saying fuck the military until they start doing things that benefit the common citizen. Not that these sentiments are stopping the boomer cons from licking the boots nice and clean, of course. Two shining exemplars of that happened this week. The first of which being that, paralleling late imperial Rome, we're openly raising now the idea of offering citizenship to foreign mercenaries if they fight for the United States military. Because recruitment drives are dropping very low, presumably because, well, I think we've already discussed this. Most of the people are fat, and the people that are fit, they are smart enough to realize that the military is a sack of shit and they're not going to fight for it. But yeah, offering, the foreign mercenaries citizenship if they fight for the army. That worked out great for Rome, didn't it? And secondly, the White House was joining in on Pride Month celebrations this past week. This past week being just a small fraction of the literal half of the year that's dedicated to non-heteronormative sex. They literally hung the LGBTQ flag off the White House in a higher position than the American flag. And it's not even like the rainbow flag that actually looks appealing in the vexillology sense. It's that like multicolored fuck spiral flag. And that was flying high over Old Glory. And the boomer cons loved it. Says, rando commentator guy Jesse Kelly. It's like, that transsexual who popped his shirt off at the White House has a nice pair of tits, and I'm tired of pretending she didn't. Says Jesse Kelly. It's literally that Kevin Costner Yellowstone meme come to life. The boomer cons will idolize any degenerate crap as long as you put a thin veneer of American patriotism over it. But let's check out some comments. Okay. C-Punk Messiah says, I'm into big black chicks, so I guess I've got some more options. Hey, there's nothing wrong, with, dip into the chocolate pot now and then. There's nothing wrong with that at all, sir. Like I said, love who you love, be with who you want to be with. And, they get the bleach on, man. Ponythroat says, America has not fought for the good guys since World War I. Again, I will argue that the Korean War was justified. But yeah, it's still 1953. It's been a 70-year reign of just horseshit. C-Punk Messiah says, the military fetishists are the ones who would lose their shit if they were dropped into Saigon. Yes, very true. I noticed most of the people that, blindly fetishize the military never served. Ponythroat says, one day the anal vor pride flag will be flying above our kids' heads. It's amazing how, they just keep adding on identities to the pride flag. It just gets worse and worse. At least they weren't using the one with the big red umbrella on it, which I believe is literally the sex worker legalization flag, which is actually an issue I support for the sake of society, not myself, of course. But, yeah, it's becoming very clear to me that, gay men are the only ones who, can make art in that whole little community. Out of curiosity, I have to ask, has anybody ever celebrated, Alan Turing at the Pride, parade, or, Samuel Barber, or Tchaikovsky, or Aaron Copland, or anybody like that? These great artists and inventors and pioneers who happen to be gay? Or is it just dancing around, flapping giant rubber wieners about? I think it's the wiener thing. But yeah, speaking of our LGBT friends, got some more stories about this. First of all, Wikipedia now has an article about trans genocide. And I quote, some scholars and activists say there is an elevated level of systematic discrimination and violence against the trans community. Really, I can't say I see that going on when your flag is literally flying over the American flag at the White House. Remind me, how many people have died in the trans genocide? Where are the killing fields? Wikipedia's got very clear death tolls for, the Holocaust, the killing fields, Cambodia, the Holodomor, Rwanda, etc., etc. I mean, I should be going outside and seeing, just piles of transgender bodies stacked up, but I don't see them. Similarly, it is well documented. Yeah, there's a lot of, depopulation of things that are well documented. I mean, for example, it's well documented that Native American populations declined 80% via colonization. In 1890, the population was recorded at about 400,000, reduced from a pre-Columbian figure of about 2 million or so. So has the trans community lost 80% of its population? I don't think so. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it less than 50 trans people are murdered a year? And most of those seem to be sex workers that are murdered by their johns when they realize that they're banging a trans woman. And most of those johns happen to not be, evil white rednecks with rifles. Here's some data. Between 2008 and 2021, about 4,000 trans people were murdered globally. I mean, that's certainly bad. Nobody deserves that. But that does not make a genocide, I don't think. I mean, it's your body and you can do with it as you please, of course. Can we stop acting like this is going on when it's not? I mean, I hate to say it, but I feel like some of the people who become trans are also gigantic drama queens who hysterically overreact to literally nothing. Oh, and for the record, literally double the amount of people are killed by hippos every year than are killed in the trans genocides. So, god damn it, when are we going to take those hippos to court for their human genocide? Fucking hippos. Okay, comments here. Ponythroat says, I designed the anal vor pride flag. It's better vexillologically than most. It's the first result on Google if you wish to see. I would rather not search for that, thank you. I'll take your word for it. Okay. But actually, I think I did find an example of anti-LGBT hate recently. School officials in Burlington, Massachusetts were upset that kids were upset about the school board forcing them to do a pride celebration. They organized their own counter-protest, showing up in American flag colors instead. This is apparently bad. In all seriousness, what do you expect? Kids are always going to rebel against the school marm. That is a great American tradition that informs much of our cultural output, or it did up until the 90s or so. And, once in a while, you forget that the spirit of Lexington and Concord still beats in the hearts of New England. And I feel like this wouldn't really have happened if you didn't basically and literally force it down their throats. Look, I mean, children are always going to want to rebel against the school marm. When the school marm is bringing in men in drag, thrusting their dicks in your face, being staid and sensible and stuffy becomes the rebellion. Again, I feel like most people would genuinely just let, the gays be and leave them alone. I mean, I certainly want to. When you dedicate half the year to this LGBT spectrum, it gets a little annoying. Let's check out some comments. Okay, no new comments. It's wonderful. So let's talk some tech news. Have some man-made horrors beyond our comprehension, in the words of that great Serbian, Nikola Tesla. We got a couple of those this week. The first one is, an OnlyFans star's son is left in suicidal despair after classmates taunted him with porn of his mother. Yeah, that'll do it. I mean, again, I hate to denigrate all women, because it's not all women, but some women, they're just like, oh my god, I can have attention from simps around the world, and their judgment just becomes totally clouded, and they just lose all rational thought. Never mind what happens to my children, I'm getting attention. Yay, attention. And to think that the average woman on OnlyFans makes like legit $200 a month, which is about as much as I make in my internet endeavors, except that, I'm just bullshitting and making goofy videos. I don't spread my cheeks and show my bunghole to the world for pennies. I think I speak for everybody on Earth that the idea of seeing your mother doing porn might be one of the most horrifying things on the planet. Or any woman in your family doing porn. I mean, yeah, I'd be going full George C. Scott if I were to see that. Like, turn it off! Turn it off! Yeah, boy, the therapist is going to be making bank in the next 15 to 20 years. Also, yes, references to Paul Schrader movies, new on the Larsen live stream. C-Punk Messiah says it's like that one South Park episode with the nurse with a conjoined fetus. Yes, they throw parades for her, and she'd really just prefer to be left alone. And I'm curious. I feel like most gay dudes, at least I've talked to, they kind of just want to mind their own business too. But yeah, we gotta push the drag queens. The State Department literally funds drag queens in Ecuador, which is wonderful, of course. But not to be outdone with man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. There's a few of those, actually. In the UK, going back to the Eurozone, A woman has reported being summoned to court. Why? Because of something she tweeted. Repeated misgendering is cited. Oi, mate, you got a license for your bants? She will not be allowed to use any social media, social networking, or other websites. They're arresting people for memes now. And we sit here laughing at China's social credit system as if we don't basically have that in the West as well. I mean, is America far off in this? Probably not. Related to this is the story of an Amazon driver who reported somebody being racist. In response, the guy's house was basically locked down. The owner was locked out of his own house because somebody accused him of being racist. This is the future, and it really, really sucks. I want to look up that story more in depth, and we shall see what happens there. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so there's Alexa-powered smart houses, and a delivery driver accused him of being racist because the home's alarm system went off when he was there. The owner provides proof no such racism occurred, and he's fighting to open up his house. But yeah, apparently you can be canceled from your house because you are allegedly racist, which is to say, if somebody literally accuses you of being racist with no proof for it. So, yeah, I'm just going to tell you, this is why I will never have a smart home. I will never have an automated security system. I'm going to open my door with a key, like a primitive heathen. But, it's better than being locked out of my house for racism. I don't even know how is this racist? Still trying to find exactly what happened. Let's see. Yeah, so apparently the doorbell is automated to say, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" And the delivery driver thought this was racist for some reason, and yeah, reported him to Amazon, and Alexa just shit-canned that whole house. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat says, Onlyfans and its consequences have been a disaster for middle schools everywhere. That kid is going to grow up to a future school shooter, but not with a gun. Yeah, it's, yeah, can we, like I said, the therapists are going to be making goddamn bank in the next 15 to 20 years. Ponythroat then says they just want to eat the poo-poo in the privacy of their own cars. Well, let them. As long as you're doing it in your home and not scaring the horses, you could eat the poo-poo or do whatever you want. Ponythroat then says that man deserved it for installing loads of Amazon smart shit. Yeah, I agree. I fantasize every day about the Amazon corporation being destroyed. Ponythroat then says if you can't get your lights back on because Alexa's stopping you, you clearly failed Electronics 101. Yeah, I mean, do you really... I imagine the guy, homeowner just wants to come home and, kick back with a beer. I don't think he's in the mood to, rewire electricity. Hey, let's see. Yep, this is the future. So anyway, yeah, I'm done with the news. Now we'll get the pop culture news. And you know what that means. Movies based on video games. That's what we're doing nowadays because Hollywood is just creatively bankrupt completely. Anywho, rumors abound. They've apparently been denied, but rumors still persist. That, flush off the success of their Super Mario Brothers movie, Nintendo may have greenlit a Legend of Zelda movie. Yay. With Illumination. Boo. It may or may not be true. The head of Illumination has denied it. I'm really hoping it's not true because it's Illumination. I mean, Illumination's Mario movie was competently done, but I think we can all agree that the Legend of Zelda franchise has a substantially greater amount of intellectual and philosophical depth to it. I'm not entirely sure how those mealy-mouthed French cartoonists are going to hone their way into making a movie that will capture a fraction of that. And this isn't even getting into how, again, I emphasize that doing something like the Castlevania cartoon, an episodic television series, would be much better for really exercising those themes that are interspersed throughout the franchise. I mean, my utmost hope is that if you were to do a Zelda movie at all, it would be taken dead seriously, like Lord of the Rings, with gravitas and artistry and earning that PG-13. But I only say that because Amazon has really never advanced beyond. I'm sorry, Amazon. Illumination has never advanced beyond, competent but kind of shallow, kiddie movies. Jeez, I might have to actually watch that movie Legend from 1985 with Tom Cruise, which may or may not have influenced the first Zelda game. That's still a matter of debate. Unfortunately, Tim Curry, who played Satan in that movie, currently has like throat cancer or something, so he can't grace us with his decadent tones. Let's see. Ponythroat says, there's always time for soldering and rewiring. I don't call it homework, I call it home fun. Not everybody likes electronics as much as this horse. How do you resolder with your giant hooves, sir? And yeah, I mean, soldering's cool. And, I do like carpentry and things on occasion myself. My lovely wife got me a set of, of like basic whittling. I'm going to whittle the crap out of like musical instruments once I have some free time. So, that's what I find fun. Some people may not find that fun, but I do. Anyway, yeah. I guess I can find the silver lining in this rumor that if it were to happen, Illumination probably wouldn't cave to the weirdo, like, extremely online sex deviants and make Link into a flaming Moe, or a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania, to reference Tim Curry again. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't have high hopes for an Illumination Zelda movie, or any movie, to be quite honest. I'm sure Illuminations would be, achieving some minimum level of competence, since apparently Nintendo kept a tight grip on the animators to keep them from doing that, lol spastic buttock flapping, lowest common denominator horseshit that they usually do. But yeah, I don't see them making it into the sprawling epic that it deserves to be. Since we're just talking fantasy world, studio casting, so to speak, you know what studio I would sign if I were in charge of the Legend of Zelda film project? Studio goddamn Ghibli, that's who. Then I would also bring on Ralph Bakshi as a consultant and general rabble-rouser. Yes, really. I'm not entirely sure if Ralphie is familiar with the Vidya, but I am, of course, referring to Bakshi's animated adaptation of Lord of the Rings, which was good in some ways. It influenced Peter Jackson's movies. I think he certainly nailed the spirit and tone of the work, but it suffered, unfortunately, from a lack of budget, time, and studio interest, like every movie he's ever done. And with this project, he might be able to utilize that creative vision he never could quite fulfill for his own works. I mean, his fantasy vision that he could never quite fulfill. His creative vision for his gritty urban drama wheelhouse that was much more thoroughly fulfilled. And I think we can agree we don't need that in the Zelda movie. Hey, yeah, let's make Link a hard-drinking cabriolet driver. I'll have chicks with their titties hanging out there. Yeah, fuck you, I don't listen to them studios. Yeah, to be honest, just imagining Bakshi having to work with Miyazaki might be one of the funniest things I can imagine. And that could be its own movie in and of itself. I mean, it never ceases to amuse me how Miyazaki and Ghibli's wheelhouse can be like the most fluffy, heartwarming, pastoral whimsy you could possibly put on animation. And then in his personal life, Miyazaki is just the most surly, miserable prick in the world. And then Bakshi's kind of the opposite. He grew up in Brownsville in the 50s, and his works are the animated equivalent of licking a New York subway car, but he seems much more put together as a human being. I love animation, folks. I just know for a fact I don't have the patience or the talent to do it myself. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat says, Tim Curry is currently lopsided like the Leaning Tower after that stroke. Ah, that's it. He had a stroke, not throat cancer. But yeah, he can't talk anymore. He says, I've seen Legend. It's a good movie. It's the epitome of 80s, puppet show fantasies. Not as good as Time Bandits. I mean, I haven't seen that one. I mean, uh, I mean, my favorite '80s fantasy is Conan the Barbarian. To put that into perspective, but yeah, of like the more kind of family friendly ones, yeah, there were some good ones. And yeah, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, I was looking at AI art generations of like what if Zelda was one of those like Jim Henson puppet movies, and it actually looked pretty good. Ponythroat says, I've read Lord of the Rings. What in those books made Bakshi think Aragorn should have looked Native American? I mean, I don't think he was. I think it just kind of looked like it. And yeah, the portrayal of Sam in those movies was not good. Yes, he was literally a one-toothed simpleton. Yeah, that was not good. Again, I the Bakshi cartoon movie was like it. It was only half the story, and I feel like you can kind of see towards the end of it, Sam is kind of like nutting up a little bit. So maybe he would have been better portrayed in like the second one if it had been made. But of course, we'll never know. Anyway, yeah, there's more news of video movies, more specifically, video television shows. Paramount Plus is confirmed, flush off the success of these Sonic movies. They're doing a Knuckles spin off show on Paramount Plus, their streaming service. Idris Elba returns to play the brawling echidna, and also confirmed to be cast, but in as of yet undisclosed roles, are Christopher Lloyd, Carrie Elwes, and Stockard Channing. Together at last! I don't know what cocaine fueled Hollywood producer wanted Doc Brown, the Dread Pirate Roberts, and Betty Rizzo together with Knuckles and his horrifying three-headed penis, but by God, they got it. Man, Knuckles is going to be time traveling and or hand jiving all up and down Mushroom Hill Zone or whatever. Whether or not Knuckles will be wearing his hat, the Australian slouch hat, that is left unanswered. But the most important question to ask, besides the hat, of course, about the Knuckles show is, did it get the approval of the most important man in the history of the Sonic franchise? No, not Yuji Naka, idiot. I mean Ken motherfucking Penders. Last I heard, Ken Penders was legit raising a stink about the Knuckles show when it was first announced, because if you believe him, he made Knuckles a compelling character and therefore deserves all the money. And he's still trying to sell his stupid echidna sex fanfiction thing to a major studio. But I'm sure he'd be content if they just put his weird teenage porn OCs into the Knuckles show. No, I don't know why Ken Penders is so obsessed with teenage echidna sex, but he just is for some reason. I'm genuinely curious as to what he thinks about this casting. I'm also curious as to what you people think about this. Ponythroat still talking about the Bakshi thing. He says, would Gandalf stop pointing at random directions constantly? And they should have not tried to adapt more than one book into one movie. Yeah, look, the Bakshi Lord of the Rings movie has problems. But considering it was a low-budget cartoon movie in the 70s, I think he really did the best he could. And from what I recall, like, the studio was kind of pushing him to make it, to kind of cram it all in. And regardless of what Aragorn looks like, John Hurt did a great job voicing him. Pointer then says, holy fuckles, it's Knuckles. He also says, did CWC approve? Yeah, Christine Weston Schindler was not available for comment, unfortunately. I mean, Ken Penders is basically a slightly more successful CWC if you think about it. And yet, Ken Penders somehow has children and grandchildren, which should give hope to all the incels out there. If this mustachioed dork with his echidna sex fixation can get married and have kids, why can't you? In all seriousness, I do hope that the Knuckles show or the next Sonic movie or whatever does reference Ken Penders in a thoroughly derogatory way, of course. I mean, I could see it now. It could even be something like dialogue. Sonic wakes up. Wow, Tails, I had a really weird dream about me having to fight a vaguely racist black pimp rabbit with a revolver. Or a scene like, Well, Knuckles, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody use cartoon dingoes as a Holocaust allegory? Yes, both of those things did spawn from the idiotic pen of penders. Come on, Paramount, do it. You referenced Sonic in the first movie. Okay. C-Punk Messiah says he doesn't care about Sonic or Knuckles, but Tails is his favorite character. They should do something with him. Oh, he's in the second movie, so that's good. I don't think he's getting a spin-off, though. Anyway, yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. If anybody has something else to say about the utterly bizarre casting of the Knuckles show, or anything like that, you can say it now. And yes, there is going to be dead air as I wait for you to type. It's got a minute to say your last pieces. Okay, Ponythroat says Yuji Naka was apprehended for tax evasion, but he escaped custody by leaving from the helicopters using a metal sheet as a surfboard. The police's fleet of giant semi-trucks has been deployed. Congratulations, sir. You literally made the same joke I made when that news story first broke a few months ago. Bravo. Ponythroat says, can you look at my flag before you go? Artistic masterpiece. I am not going to look up anal vor in my on Google image search, okay? I will not fall for your tricks, sir. Okay, Genghis Tom asks, how come your channel lost a lot of viewers? You make good content. Well, I know why I lost a lot of viewers, because I've been doing all live streams for the past year because I couldn't make scripted works because of my job. Hopefully, with the new job I got, I will have some more free time and I'll be able to make videos more often, because all data analytics show that the scripted videos get much more views. I mean, even much more popular channels have the same pattern. Like if you look at, I don't know, Razor Fist or something, his scripted videos get like 10 times as many views as his live streams. I mean, that's why. Plain as that. But yes, I'm glad that you like my old videos. I am going to make some more scripted videos and keep abreast for those. All right, so the minute countdown begins again. C-Punk Messiah says, go check out the band Tang Dynasty. They were China's first heavy metal act. I will look them up. Thank you. Ponythroat says, I like pie. Well, who doesn't like pie, sir? I like a key lime pie myself. Key lime pie is a distinctly American tradition, and I think we should celebrate it. Anyway, yes, I think that's going to do it. So for Larsen Halleck, I'm Larsen Halleck. Have a good day, everybody.